Sweden fights on. How about this one? Well, first of all, this is probably going to be the lead-off piece for me on Consim World, the piece that usually I put the intros up because people want to see, how the system works, etc. I've covered Sweden fights, I've covered the Musket and Pike series so many different times, and I think I covered the rules fairly completely, and impressions, etc. of that nature in the intro to Saints in Armor, if I'm not surprised, if I'm not confused. And I also, in other ones. This is a series I really like. There's no question there. And those of you who are watching this probably are already familiar with that. So what I want to do is not so much look at the series itself, but this particular installment. Because I haven't gotten a chance to cover some of the other... some of the earlier ones, I was still, first blush of this series, especially Gustav Adolphus. And then... when I got to Saints in Armor, well, I wanted to do a more regular version of the whole thing because the other ones were done so long ago where I covered everything. But on this one, I just wanted to play, so I didn't do an intro at all. And I may have introed a little bit at the beginning. You don't have a lot of battles in this one. Although if you have the old Lion of the North, you get an upgrade kit for it, which is cool. The lack of battles is perhaps kind of the biggest negative to this one, but what you do get are some nice big rich battles. You only get 4 total. One thing that immediately struck me was the cleanness of the graphics on these. I really like what they did with the maps. They look like old SPI 1970 era maps, but well done and everything. I mean, look, Simonson was, the best. The more colorful maps, I know that's more modern and everything, but these relax me. Seeing the battle going on these with this nice white space everywhere, I find that far more relaxing than seeing a lot of green and a lot of little details on the field. I lose my pieces in more modern designed maps, and I have to say I have a leaning towards these. So that's one thing in the favor of this that has very little to do with the game, and if they reprint it, they'd probably redo the graphics and get rid of that, right? There are some negatives on the same lines, which is these older ones. I think Cursed Civil War has the same thing. There's a lot more sharing of counters. Now there's some... in some of the other games, you get some deduplicating counters that say, hey, you can use this one in this battle, this one in this. But it doesn't fully cover the issue. And I gotta seal some of these up before I lose any pieces. It doesn't fully cover the issue because, well, first of all, they haven't gotten to the leaders. Though maybe they did at C3I or something like that. I don't want to pay an extra $20 every time they come out with a couple new counters. And they also don't have the artillery and the dragoons and such sorted by battle. Also, some of the wings are not labeled on the counters. It's like, for example here, Nordlingen, you don't have what wing that belongs to. I think this was only on the double-sized counters, but I'm not positive. A little bit of an annoyance factor again. Makes it harder to keep track of your formations, especially in some of these battles where there's a lot of units that might end up running at cross purposes to each other. I think this is my favorite of the series that I've seen so far. It's hard to tell, because obviously 4 bigger battles kind of fatigued me in a way that some of the others didn't. But these were, first of all, big map battles. Saints in Armor is filled with all these tiny map battles. I feel cluttered and clustered in those, and I want room to maneuver. I want room for the battles to develop. I loved the fact about Young Kao, that you actually deployed your troops. You had to you had this terrain impediment between you at the beginning of the battle, and had to figure out really how to set up your formation. I like situations like that. I like a lot of room for maneuvering, a little bit of time before people get into the clash of things. I felt like too many in Gustav Adolphus were set-piece battles where you're one move away. What are you going to do? You're going to charge forward or you're going to stand. Those are your two options. Nothing else matters. So I do like the ability to test out a little bit of deployment opportunity. But one of the problems is, yes, deployment was almost by the book for a lot of these battles. So maybe putting too much focus on that wouldn't make a lot of sense. But it just plays to my particular tastes to be able to move some pieces around and set up. Nordlingham also had room for maneuver. Really, all of these were big enough. The battlefield was big. There are a lot of counters in some of them, but it's just not as dense as the smaller ones. There's always more space to play around with, more terrain to look at. The battles felt not necessarily balanced, but the scenarios felt like the players had a shot at it in general. You might need some luck. Some of them probably are less balanced than others, but I don't really care too much about that aspect. What I care about, look, you can play it out and then you can say afterwards, well, I have no idea how I would win with that side, and so then what, well, then you kind of judge it based on the situation. How much of your army can you save, how much damage can you cause, and they do try to balance the unbalanced battles by giving, well, it's not so much balanced. I'm not sure what they're doing. They set a victory point goal at a particular level. It's not necessarily the historical. I think it's a play balance based one. But it also doesn't really reflect what the commanders on the field would be desiring to do. Quite often, some of these battles, both sides want to destroy the enemy. One side's not trying to, play out the clock and take as little damage as they can, try to, get within the spread or something. That always feels a little weird to me, but that's okay. I don't play these to see who wins the game. I play them to play out the battle and see how it develops. And I don't think that these would make, ever, tremendously competitive games. I just don't see them sweeping the convention tournament rounds too well. This is one that I think really deserves a reprint. I think it's providing something that I haven't seen in any of the others. It's maybe Under the Lily Banners will give something similar. I understand that's got smaller scenarios, I think, but a lot of people seem to really like it. I haven't gotten to that one yet. And it'll be a while because I need a little bit of break. Because one of the things, when I first saw this series, I was really excited. The Gustav Adolphus, I was like, wow, this is awesome. Somebody's actually done this on a level better than the old SPI quads. With this, there's a fatigue factor. I had just played Saints in Armor. I put this one on the table and kind of pushed through it. Some of the scenarios were a little bigger. Well, they were all a little bigger than I'm used to, and I think I need more time between games in a series. I felt the same kind of fatigue over with the SPQR, although that was a tremendously long stretch. But where I'd played big games in between. And it's harder when I have, I only got one more scenario. I should just get it out of the way. It's harder. But these are the richest scenarios that I think I've seen yet in the system. I did play one scenario from Accursed Civil War. It was kind of light, but it was I think it was the intro scenario, the Edge Hill or whatever. It was kind of light, but it was an enjoyable feel, the same kind of cleanness to the map. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm hoping Lily Banners has the old style graphics too. I don't know. That actually makes a big difference to me. Anyway, you know, I mean, it brings you back, and you're enjoying the board more when it's not all colors. I don't think I have a hell of a lot to say here. So we'll just load this up.